It's pretty impressive how seamless it all works, you know? Like, I've seen you under the gun. I mean, I remember that season one, that opening shot in the Jeep and the dancing sequence being a 10-minute shot, and we couldn't use the normal wireless that you used. We had to use a high-powered wireless setup that had a little teeny bit of delay, which would make your job harder, and it was flawless when we got down to actually doing it.
And that was a really impressive shot. That was a really difficult shot. First of all, for range of transmission, for everything, for the images that had to be seen, for Jim, who was in a Jeep with the Steadicam getting out of the Jeep. It was a long shot. And yeah, I think it's the experience I had over the years on a lot of films where we did a lot of really big things that on film, it's hard. You're a film. I mean, we used to use IMOs, which had 100-foot spool, right?
Yeah.
100-foot spools, 90 foot a minute. 90 feet is 1 minute of film time in an IMO. And it's a 100-foot reel, right? Now you're doing an action film. They want to run that at not at 24 frames, but 48 frames, right? So your minute turns into 30 seconds, right?
Right.
Okay. Think about that. So now if we're going to shoot at 48 frames with an IMO, you have 30 seconds. From the minute they call action till the shot's complete, you have 30 seconds. So you have to figure out what you're going to capture. Now you have 12 cameras, 2 IMOs. You cannot roll the IMO when a camera rolls, or it will roll out before, and it's happened with many people. You have to say A camera speed, B camera speed, C camera speed. Okay, start the Ritter fan, start the fire, and rolling, and 1, 2, 3, and I'd say on end, on that last thing, you roll the IMO. And action. The guy starts running, the explosion happens, and you catch it. Otherwise, it's over.
Right.
The camera will have run out 3 minutes. You know all the conversation that happens before they even call action. But it'd be a guy on a trigger. If he missed that trigger, that's a shot. A big explosion, everything. If you don't get it, that's why you had multiple cameras. So those type of situations that I was in on multiple movies. I did Volcano, huge movie that was my first huge movie where we had multiple cameras running, different speeds, visual effects, crazy stuff. Granted, it was a feature. We would do 3 shots a night. We did a lot of nights on that show. We did 3 shots, but they were enormous setups, like 20 propane tanks on set, like crazy stuff. But you have to keep calm and carry on. I mean, you're in your head, you're not calm. You're like, holy shit. Like,
Shit.
Who's running that camera? There's IMO on the roof.
Right.
How's the guy getting off the roof? How can we run a cable off the roof to switch it on down below? So now, like, nothing phases me. You could say, I want a camera in a boat underwater. Okay, just give me a day. I got to get the gear in. Well, what gear? It's going underwater, So I am proud of the things I've done, and I've learned a lot over the years on those type of things. And that's why I'm kind of calm. I know that we can make anything work. You just got to give it a minute and give it a breather, think about it. But also, we have a lot of different technologies that help us. Video Assist helps us. Transmission to monitors, which they can actually see. Think about it. Back in the day, you didn't see it. You didn't see it. You took the word of an operator or whatever. Did you get the explosion? When you used to shoot guns, your shutter either caught the flash or didn't catch the flash. So
Right.
when the mirror was engaged, that's when the operator saw it. If he saw the flash, it meant the film didn't see the flash. So you'd have to go again. Your mirror shutter, right? When the operator is looking through, that mirror is covering the film.
Yeah.
And he sees it. So when a guy shoots a gun, he goes, bam, 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 bam. They'd say, how many flashes did you see? You saw 3 of the 6. Okay, we're good. Sometimes he'd go bam, 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 and he'd see no flashes, which means they were all on film. But if he saw every flash, that means none of them were on film. And that's how it worked. And no one knows that. But remember, it's a mirror shutter. Half the time the operator is seeing the image. Half the time the film is seeing the image. And it clears every time it's exposing. And it depends. It used to be if there was a long flame, then you saw part of the flash. And the film got part of it. So sometimes you go to Dale's and you'd see like a little pop. And you knew it was a long flame because the mirror took half of it. Anyway, there's a lot of stories.
Yeah. I mean, even like shooting monitors and screens and things like that, that's a whole technology now. The digital world has helped make it easier.
So much easier. So much easier. We're 24 frame playback, seeing, moire patterns, seeing all that. So you used to go to dailies and say, holy shit. Or you got lines on a screen, or I thought we were at 144 of a shutter. Now you see it immediately. There are lines. You dial it in. Like, that's so much simpler. You see color so much better. You could tweak it better. So there are advantages and disadvantages, all of that stuff. The problem is also everyone sees it now, right, Lee? So everyone's a DP.
Right. Everyone sees it.
For a DP, it's everyone's a DP. They're too orange. Aren't they too dark? You know, there's too much color in the background. Can you take it down? It's like, it's not going to look like that in post when I get there. No, but can we do it now? So, you know, as a DP, it's a real hard for them to like, don't let them look at that monitor, Anthony, or you know what I mean? That's why you have to have the monitors calibrated properly, because if they're not, someone sees us, are we going to see that green? It's not green. It really is blue.
Right.
You know, you don't want to have to explain that, you know, and people, you know, when videos started, they would look at your onboard monitor and say, is that what we're seeing? And then once to regular monitors, it just became a nightmare. It's like, don't look at that. Don't let the actor see that. Don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know the deal. It's hard. You know, they're translating that into that's what the image is going to be. And sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not.
Right. And now these days, they do calibrate the monitors and they try to make them as accurate as possible, or they'll just say, go to the DIT and look at his monitor.
Exactly.
That's the most accurate color.
Exactly.
You know, but you could be outside with a high brightness monitor shooting, and there's no monitors around. The director's looking over your shoulder while you're pulling focus. You know, there's a lot of different things that have happened. Now, you're a good relationship guy, right? So you were talking earlier about
Equalizer. The original, that was the original TV series with Edward Woodward was the lead actor. It was basically, he was a vigilante, a retired private eye, and people would come to him who had no money and they'd say, help us. Our daughter got kidnapped, and he'd help. This old English guy would help them solve the crime. People would come in and work, you know, feature guys would come in and work our show because they weren't working. So we gave them day work because it was a lot of day work. We did a lot of action. We had extra cameras on a crane. And that's where you got, you know, where else do you meet assistants? You either meet them at a rental house helping them check out, or they hire you on a job. There's no opportunity to like work with them unless they hire you as an extra camera, and they're not going to hire you unless they know you. So on the Equalizer, we'd bring them in. We're giving them work, and then they're saying, hey, who's that? Oh, that's Anthony. Hi. And then they'd watch you because they're always looking for good assistants. And they're like,
right.
Hey, when you're available, give me a call or whatever. And that was a great opportunity for me to meet a lot of assistants that worked on features, were not working on features, got to work with us, saw how we worked, saw how I worked. And then I could always call them, even if they didn't hire me, and say, hey, if you ever have extra camera, I'm around. Right. I'd be like, good to know.
So what about now in today's world? I mean, you could shoot with an iPhone. I mean, it's very easy to now have accessibility of higher quality imagery, you know, to do creative work. But not everybody gets that opportunity. It seems to be that the camera department has a very nice, steady way of getting somewhere, like, you know, through to director of photography and even directing at some point. It might take time. What advice could you give to a young person or parent who wants to send their child to school or get them in the industry to go about it, you know, in today's time?
Listen, I'm an old timer and I don't look at it old school ways. Thank God I've changed my views from the guys that I started with Vinny and them. I, back in the day, had to work my way up the ladder. I tell people today, you want to shoot, shoot. There's the ability today, like you said, you can shoot something on your iPhone, edit it on your computer, and you can put it out there for people to see on a platform. Yeah. You know, when I shot student film, I was on a Moviola with real film that cost money and developing. Like, you couldn't do it. So what I say to young people is, you can go to school. I would do a crash course, but I tell people first off, because I knew what I wanted to do, right? That's part of the game. You may want to do video system. You may want to be a DIT. You may want to be a prop, but you may not know that. You may just want to get in the industry. So I tell people these days, if you have an inkling of what you know you want to do, then you have to, first of all, gravitate toward that department. Because if you're good and you have a good work ethic, I tell everyone the same thing. I said, if you don't know what you're going to do, PA, get on a set somehow, meet someone, try to get PA work and learn what everyone does and say, I'm never going to do that. I'm never going to do that. I definitely want to do that, because you can get in PA and you could PA for 10 years. But if you narrow it down and then you try to become friends with you, I want to learn playback and I want to learn visual effects and I want to do this, then they can start learning from you. And if they're good, you're going to hire them again. And if they're good, you're going to recommend them to someone else. If they don't want to do this, and I recommend someone that just wants to get in the business, and you're a friend of mine, and you say, Anthony, send them my way. And I send them your way, and they're like, oh, it was so cool. And they really don't want to do what you're doing.
Right.
but you like them. You're going to hire them again. Now your next job is going to be with some great director, and they're like, I got an opportunity to work with, Jonathan Demme with Lee. So they take it. Before you know it, 7 years down the road, and they're doing something on your video platform and saying, I never really wanted to do it, but now I'm so in, it's very hard to get out. So what I say to people is transitioning is not easy to do in this business. So if you want to get into camera and you want to learn loading and seconding, then, you try to either get in the union or try to work on non-union or independent films. There's a lot of them, and learn the craft and work your way up. And it's okay to say to me, I never want to do what you do. It's too strenuous, or it's menial work for me. A monkey could do it. I'm not going to get offended. It's a career choice for me, but it doesn't have to be a career choice for you. If you want to shoot, you can shoot today. You can get a very inexpensive camera that's high quality, and you can go out there and shoot. I say shoot. Every day shoot. Get your friends, make a little movie, edit it, and put it on a platform and start shooting. I tell people that all the time. You might not be doing huge features, but you're going to create a reel for yourself, and eventually you'll work your way into doing an independent film, and you'll get better and better. You don't have to start at the bottom. You don't miss. But if you want to learn those things, you can. You get in, you meet someone that's going to introduce you to someone, you get a little job, you become a PA for the camera department. Like I've had many on Maisel. Every PA that's, first of all, on Maisel, we have 2 cameras, but we pretty much shoot 1 camera the whole time. So our B camera, we could normally have had 2 loaders on, but they've asked me from season 1, can we have a camera PA instead of a second loader? We really don't shoot 2 cameras. I said, sure, I'd love to train someone. So I was very instrumental in hiring a lot of PAs that I trained. I didn't do what I learned, how I was taught, don't touch anything against union rules or whatever. I let them touch things. I let them learn. I let them fuck up. And I told them, when I started, I couldn't touch this. A fucking bottle of water on the set. Take this as a privilege to learn this stuff. And every single one of those PAs that I've had, except for someone who didn't want to be, once they did it, they said, I do not want to do this. Got out. I got them in the union. 4 PAs have gotten in the union now by me. They learned a lot. I let them do stuff. They fucked up. They had a little bit of attitude sometimes, and I put them in their place. But I said, you have a privilege here. No one gets the privilege. It's one of the best shows going. It's got a great look with probably the best operator working in New York now, Jim McConkey, does Steadicam and A operating. Learn from this. Take it as a gracious gift and learn. But other people who are starting out, you can go to school, learn the craft, but learn what you want to do and then figure out if you want to be a union member, get in and start that route. And I think it also is important. New York is a TV town, right? Lee, I did a lot of films. I did over 60 films. When I decided it got very slow in LA and all the work went out of LA, I said, why am I living in LA and working out of LA? I'd rather go to New York. I heard it's real busy. But when I came here, I didn't realize when they said busy, it was all TV work. And I didn't do a lot of TV. So I had done some, and I knew some people from New York, but also the people that I knew in New York were features, and they were ingrained and they had their people. So there wasn't a lot of room for me to get in there, and they didn't want me in there. They kept, and then TV, a lot of young guys were doing TV. It was easy, boom, you make a mistake. It was hard for me when I came back. I did a feature every year out of town when I got back to New York. But what I say also is that TV, film, commercial, it's also a hard transition. If you do features all the time, you sort of do features. If you do TV, you do TV. You get on a show. I've been on Maisel, right? You get ingrained in a show. You do The Good Wife. No one sees you for 5 seasons. So you don't branch out. You see, when you have a lot of opportunity, when I started, to do this, that, and that, today you get very channeled. So I tell all young people, when you get in, just be aware. If you really want to do feature films, you got to gravitate toward those. And even if you got to do independents, you're younger, you can afford to do those, but do them, because if you start doing TV, it's going to be very hard to transition out of TV into features. If you want to do commercials, I have a resume. 4 guys do commercials in this town. They do every commercial. So if I want to do commercials when I'm not working, like right now, it's hard for me unless a DP comes in from out of town and knows me and says, Anthony, tells the production manager, I want Anthony to do it. Otherwise, these 4 guys do all the commercials in New York.
Yeah,
they are.
It's true.
And I love the guys.
And there's not that much union commercial work going on at this moment either. So you end up seeing 6 key grips, 7 gaffers on the crew, because there's only 1 or 2 jobs. Now you've mentored people. You've been a mentor now.
Yes, I have. A lot over the years. And now we have a lot of women in the industry, right? We didn't have a lot of women when I started. Men, including Vinny Gerardo, frowned upon women. I was always a women advocate way back, even in LA. I had women loaders. And so I was at the forefront of getting women, anyone in, because it was hard for me to get in the union, period, as a man. So I can imagine how a lot of people were having a hard time getting in as a woman. So I have mentored a lot of people.
People have mentored you too.
Yeah,
I mean,
everyone. Vinny, all the people I learned from. Jeff Hand, Pat Capone, Dana Altamari, David Blake. I mean, David Blake, Dana Altamari, and Pat Capone were the assistants I worked with on The Equalizer. They trained me. You know, David was the loader, Dana Altamari was the second, Pat Capone was the first. And Alec Hirschfeld was the operator, and Jeff Herb was the DP.
You told me this. It was like you were talking about someone you worked with, and it was just such a memorable, pleasurable experience for you. Like, you seem like you really enjoy your work, that you enjoy life, you enjoy your work, and you've been doing this a long time. And it's admirable, because I've been doing this a long time. I'm doing this now because, you know what? I want to create still. I mean, I'm 66. I want to create.
And I turned 60 last year. I'm going on 61. I was telling you earlier, my 38th year as a union member in the business.
Wow.
I got out of school in 84. I was working in it in any kind of capacity I could. When I got out, I did an internship at Silver Cup Studios when it first opened at Silver Cup.
Hey, you know what?
I have been mentored by a lot of people, and I've mentored a lot of people. I still love it. I do. I mean, the physicality gets harder as you get older, and I'm not a guy to let everyone do the work for me, so I'm still pushing carts and doing things. But I do love it, and I do, honestly, Lee, feel very fortunate. Like, I got to get into the IA when I wanted to. I've done over 60 films. I was telling you earlier, I worked on Master and Commander, Peter Weir, an idol of mine. I worked with Sidney Lumet as a director, Spielberg as a director, Bill Condon, everyone. I worked on musicals, like I worked on Ray, which was like a highlight of my career. And then I worked on Dreamgirls. I worked on Mission Impossible. I mean, amazing movies. And then I got to transition to an amazing TV series. And so I feel very fortunate. I did a lot of commercials. Just a quick thing. You know, Tony Bennett just died. I posted on my Instagram. I did a thing, Dion Beebe and Rob Marshall. Rob Marshall directed Chicago. Dion Beebe won the Academy Award for that. A friend of mine got this thing to work on a Tony Bennett special. Tony Bennett did duets with every major artist. And I'm talking about Stevie Wonder, Elton John, Barbra Streisand, Katie Lang, John Legend, Diana Krall, everyone. We did a rehearsal in the afternoon and did the concert at night with no audience. It was like a private concert every night. Like, I talk about all these movies, but those musical things, some of the most amazing things I've ever done. Like, those experiences, I feel very fortunate. I did a thing with Keith Richards and Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp did a documentary style thing with Keith Richards. We sat in a basement of a theater in LA where Keith Richards just told stories to Johnny Depp and the crew, because we were shooting it, of his life. How he met his wife, Mick running over roofs in London, being chased by fans. Like, I'm sitting here, what is going on? And like, why am I so privileged? But that's why, you know, also, why do we love the business? It's different every day, Lee. We're outside. I always say we get to experience other people's jobs. Like, you work on a law thing, you're in a law firm in front of judges. You work in a hospital, you're seeing doctors. I worked on Three Rivers in Pittsburgh on a tugboat. I learned all about tugboats and their function. Like, who gets to do? You work a fire movie, you're in a fire engine, fire station, you talk to firemen, you get on a plane, you talk to plane engineers. Like, every day is a different experience. If you're fortunate enough to do some of the things I've done, like, I've seen everyone's jobs. Like, I didn't do them, but I learned about them without having to do them. And, you know, it's exciting, but it is, like I tell people also, when you see that guy climbing up that snow-covered mountain, and it's like, it looks like it's 13 degrees, it is 13 degrees. And there's a whole crew following up that mountain. I'm one of those guys following them up that mountain. So it is glamorous in some ways, and it's exciting, and it's great to tell stories, but it's also fucking hard sometimes, and long, and tiring.
You've got great stories. I mean, this whole idea is your fault.
Oh,
it really is.
It's a good idea. And it's also, I think it's good, once this gets going, I think it would be good to have people who come on and ask questions, because it's those young people who have questions that, you know, I can talk and answer questions that they might have. But like you said, getting in the industry, it is a little bit difficult, but it's a lot easier now than it used to be. And it is easier to do some of the crafts without having to break any barriers. Just do them.
This is a platform of, like, somebody would have to meet you personally. They'd have to sit down.
Lighting, film. It would have to be film. Before
Right.
digital, it would have to be real film. Develop the film. I mean, this is an easy conversation. That's why it's good.
And
And a lot,
and it's accessibility. Like,
it is.
you know, what you were just saying now, I was like, oh, well, what would happen if you had the cocking on, you had like, you bring a team together and then you do it where it's like people could call it. Like on this platform, you could have multiple guests. You could run it like a show.
You can invite us home school. What questions do you have for, blah, blah, blah. But,
And you see, that's a really good idea. I like that.
and part of this is you want to mentor people. You want to help people get in the industry like we did and have an opportunity to work in it. So that's what you do. I mean, you can tell stories and get people interested and then say, we're going to have a workshop, we're going to have people come in, have your questions ready. We can't have a million, have some poignant questions and we'll try to answer them. And that's an easy thing to do. And I'm happy to join that group, whatever I can afford.
Yeah, no, this is great.